This next tutorial is also the result of a request. This one came from a friend on Facebook, Tracy Gibbs, and she asked that I design the Fraggle Rock characters. And I looked everywhere, as I always do, to make sure that they had not been designed before, and I could not find a single character that had been loomed. And so I am happy to bring you Red from Fraggle Rock. Tracy, this is for you. This is a fairly advanced tutorial. Not so much advanced as there are a lot of steps, and we are going to be needing a standard rainbow loom in the offset configuration, and the bands we'll be using are red, neon orange, orange, a light pink, and I'm using the pink tinged bands from the Skin Tone package, pink, white, and we will also be using pony beads that I have marked with a little black dot for eyes. So let's get started. We're going to start with the attachments, and we will do, let's see, there's so much to do. Let's start with the tail. For the tail, we're going to need orange bands, and we are going to use single bands, and we're going to double these, and we're going to go down 6 times with a single double looped orange band each time. So that's 1 and 6. And we'll push those down. And for the puff of the tail, what we want to do, we're going to take 3 orange bands and wrap them around our hook 4 times. 2, 3, 4. And what we're going to do now is we want to take a single orange band, and we're going to slide all of these loops onto our single band. We want to make sure we get all of these over. Here we go. And we are going to form a slip knot. Okay, so I've probably mentioned in several of my previous videos that I am a bit of a pack rat. My husband calls it hoarding, but I keep all of my bands, whether they are stretched too much or broken or anything. I have a use for all of them. And what I've done is I've gone through all of my broken bands, and I've pulled out all of the orange ones that I have, because this is what we need to use now. And what we're going to do, because I need a lot of these, I'm going to stretch these out and cut them in half. We are going to weave them through the knot that we've made for the puff of the tail. So I'm just going to cut these quickly, and I can probably do more than one at a time, I hope. But I will cut these and I will be right back. Okay, so I have cut all of my broken orange bands into 2 pieces, and what I'm going to do now, I'm going to slip the slip knot over my finger, and I'm going to take my very fine crochet hook, and I'm just going to weave a bunch of these broken bands through loops of this tuft of the tail, I guess we'll call it. I want to go straight through from one side to the other, grab my broken band, and pull it through. And I want to hang on to one end so that I can pull the other end through. And I'll give it a little stretch. I'm just going to randomly pull them through. You don't want them in any kind of order or anything. It's just supposed to be all messy like. So again, I'm holding on to one end as I pull the other through to the other side. And I'm just going to keep doing that with my broken bands, and I will meet you back here when I'm done. And you can do the same thing with yours. If you don't happen to have broken bands, you may want to cut a few, and I will try to count how many I used to let you know. I honestly don't know. I haven't tried this yet. So I will let you know how many I've used for mine when we come back. Okay, so I have pulled 8 pieces of a broken band, so that would be 4 orange bands that I've used to make her tail kind of poofy. You can add more or not. I'm just going to stop here. And what we want to do is we're going to take the slip knot band and wrap it 3 times around this peg. There we go. And now we can loop the tail, and we're going to reach inside our cap band and make sure we're grabbing just the double looped band. Here we go. And we're going to carefully loop forward. And we're going to just do this all the way up. And we need to remember to form our raindrop shapes, and that we are using double looped bands, so they do tend to get a little snug. You want to be careful when you're looping. I'm going to take another orange band and double it, and I'm going to reach my hook through and form a slip knot on the end with the double looped orange band. And now we can remove this from the loom. Again, we're going carefully because the bands are tight and we don't want them to break. And this is going to give us our tail. And we can set this aside. And the next attachment we're going to make are the arms. And for that we'll be using red bands. I'll just move my orange ones out of the way. And everything will be double banded. And I'm going to take 2 red bands and go down 4 times down the right side pin. 1, 2. Actually, because I have to add her fingers at the bottom, I'm going to do this at the bottom. So I'm going to start from the 5th peg from the bottom and go down 4 times with 2 red bands each time. And 4. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side for the other arm. Again, using 2 red bands and going down the left side pin from the 5th peg from the bottom. We're going to go down 4 times with 2 red bands each time. There we go. Okay, so next for the fingers we need to use our neon orange bands. And we're going to take a single band, neon orange, and double it and wrap it around our hook 2 times. We then want to take another neon orange band and double it, and we're going to slide all 4 loops onto our double looped band. And we're going to do that again, neon orange band, and double it, and slide all 4 loops down onto our band. And that's going to give us 1 finger, and we can attach this to the end of our left side peg here, or left side pin, I guess. A single neon orange band and double it, wrap it around our hook 2 times. Another orange band, double it, and slide all 4 loops onto the double looped band. And we need to do that one more time. A neon orange band, double it, and slide all 4 loops onto our double looped band. And we're going to place this one on the end of our left side peg as well, left side pin. Each individual one is a peg, the whole thing all together is a pin. And that will give us another finger, and we need to do that again. So what we need all together, she technically has 4 fingers on each hand, but because these can't really get these any smaller, what I'm going to do is I'm only going to give her 3 fingers, so we need 6 altogether. So I'm just going to pause and you can come back and we'll do it again. And actually, we're going to need these as for toes as well. So if you wanted to make 12 altogether now, you'll have your toes ready for next time. So let's pause and make 12 of these all together, and we'll meet back when we're done. Okay, welcome back. I have finished my 10 extra fingers and toes. We already have 2, so we're going to continue and add 1 more to the bottom left peg, or the bottom peg on the left side, and we will add 3 to the bottom peg on the right side. 1, 2, push that down, and the last one, 3. There we go. And now we can loop these, and we're going to have to be really careful because these are double banded and there's a lot of bands there. So we just want to reach inside and grab the bottom 2 red bands, making sure we've gone inside all of our finger attachments, and we're going to carefully pull out our 2 red bands and loop them forward. And as you can see, I don't have a raindrop shape, but as soon as I loosen some of the tension here, I will get that raindrop shape that I'm looking for. It's just because they're so tight there, it's not showing up. There we go. And I'm just going to finish looping these. Looping forward. And there we go. Going to do the same thing for the right side arm. Reaching inside all of my finger attachments, carefully grabbing the bottom 2 red and looping forward. And again, I'm going to loosen the tension on these bands to make sure I have my raindrop shape. And I'm going to continue looping. There we go. And I'm going to place this on a holding hook. So I'm going to carefully remove these from the loom. And when I get to my fingers, I'm just going to place my hook inside and carefully pry them off the peg. And I'll remove my hook. And I'm going to, actually, now that I'm looking at this with just 4 loops, I think we need to add some more for her arm. So we're going to take some red bands, and this is not difficult. We're just going to take 2 red bands and add them to the end, and 2 more red bands and add that to the end. There we go, that looks better. And we're going to do the same thing on the other arm. So once we've removed it from the loom, and again I'll place my hook down through to release my fingers. And I'm going to remove the fingers from the end of my hook. And again I'm going to add 2 red bands to my second arm and 2 more red bands. There we go. So that will give us our arms and our hands, and we can set this aside, and I'll do some adjusting after. For the legs, we're again going to start at the bottom, and we are going to add 2 neon orange bands from the 3rd peg to the 2nd at the bottom of our right side pin. And I'm just going to even out my bands. And we're going to do that 2 times with 2 neon orange bands each time. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. 2 neon orange bands from the 3rd peg to the 2nd on the left, and 2 more neon orange bands finishing off the bottom of the left side pin. And now we can take our toes that we've already made, and we're going to add 3 to each foot. So at the bottom of our left pin, we're going to add 3 of our toe attachments. And I'm moving 1 over to the left side, leaving 1 in the center, and putting 1 over to the right. And these can be adjusted off the loom as well, so I wasn't too concerned. And our final 3 toes will go on the other foot. Again, the last peg down on the right. 1, 2, and 3. And there's our toes. And we can loop these, and we're going to reach inside, grabbing the bottom 2 neon orange bands. And again, because they're so tight, we're just going to carefully release these bands and loop them forward. And again, I'm going to remove some of the tension by rolling my hook around the outside of that peg, and I can finish looping. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Again, reaching down through all of our attachments and grabbing our bottom 2 neon orange bands, carefully stretching them out. Making sure we get both bands on the right side of the peg there, and looping to the peg above. And again, I'm just going to remove some of the tension by rolling my hook around the outside of that peg. And I can finish looping this. And we're going to carefully remove these from the loom. And I'm going to release my toes by placing my hook down through the center. And then I'm just going to take my holding hook, and I can remove these from the loom. There we go, and we're going to set this aside. And the next attachment that we have to make are her ears. Well, I'm calling them ears. I'm not sure if they're actually ears, but the pom-poms on the top of her head. And again, we'll be using our darker orange bands. We are going to take 8 orange bands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're going to try to do this carefully. I'm hoping this can be done. I probably should have tried this before I decided this was a step I was going to use. And we're going to wrap them 3 times around our hook. So putting them on counts as 1, and then 2, and then our final wrap of 3. And we are then going to take a single orange band and double loop it. And we're going to slide all of these bands over onto our double looped band. And this may take some work just to get them all over there. I mean, whoops, I don't want to let go of my double loop band. Apologize if I moved off camera there. And we're just going to keep sliding these bands over. It doesn't matter if they're in the same position that they were in. And there we go. That wasn't as bad as I thought. And what we're going to do is fold this over. So we're going to reclaim the end. And now we want to take another orange band, and we're going to double it, and we're going to form a slip knot at the end, and this will give us one of her ear tufts, I guess. And we need to do the same thing again for the other side. So again, we're going to take 8 orange bands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to gather these on my hook. And again, putting them on your hook counts as 1, and we need to wrap them 3 times around our hook. So that's 1, twist and tuck is 2, twist and tuck is 3. And again, we're going to take a single orange band and double it and slide all of these loops over onto our double looped band. Being careful to maintain our hold on the end of our double loop band. We don't want to lose it. There we go. And we're just going to grab the end. And again, we'll take a single orange band and double it. And we're going to slide all of these loops through and form a slip knot. And there we have our second puff. And what we're going to do now is the same thing we did for the tail. And again, we're just going to weave broken bands throughout this little pom-pom ball that we've made. And since we're all familiar with that with the tail, I'm just going to pause this and I will meet you back here. Again, I will probably use 8 or 10 pieces, which is 4 or 5 bands per ear tuft, ear ball, I guess. I'm not sure what you'd call it. But I will meet you back here when we're done. I've added 5 broken bands, so 10 pieces, to each of these ear balls, I guess we're calling them, and we can set those aside. And now I believe we are ready to band our loom. And we're going to start at the top for her head, and we are going to start with our neon orange bands. And everything will be double banded, and we are going to place 2 neon orange bands from the first to the second peg in the center, followed by 2 more neon orange bands. Next, we want to use 2 red bands from the third to the fourth peg, and again 2 neon orange bands from the fourth to the fifth peg. We're going to go back up to the left side, and we will place 2 neon orange bands from the center to the left. I'm just going to call these orange, and we're going to go down the left side 3 times with 2 orange bands each time. 1, 2, and 3. We want to do the same thing on the right side. Again, from the top center peg to the first peg on the right. And we will go down the right side 3 times with 2 orange bands each time. 2 and 3. And now continuing down, we want to grab our red bands for her sweater, and we're going to go 4 times down the center with 2 red bands each time. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to switch to our dark orange bands, and we are going to go down 1 time, continuing down the center. We're going to go back up and finish off our face with 2 light orange bands from the 4th peg on the left to the 5th peg in the center, and 2 light orange bands from the 5th peg in the center to the 4th peg on the right. We're going to continue down for the sweater with red bands, and we'll place 2 red bands. So 2 red bands from the 5th peg in the center to the 5th peg on the left. We'll push those down so there's room. And 2 red bands from the 5th peg in the center to the 5th peg on the right. And again, we're going to go down the left side with 2 red bands 4 times, going down the left side pin. and 4. And we'll do the same thing on the right, continuing down the right side with 2 red bands, 4 times going down the right side pin. 3 and 4. Switching back to our dark orange bands, we are going to go down the left side 1 time with 2 dark orange bands, and we're going to move over to the right and continue down the right side with 2 dark orange bands. We're going to go down the center 1 more time with 2 dark orange bands, and now we want to continue down the left pin. We're going to go back to our neon orange bands, and we're going to finish off the left side with 2 neon orange bands 3 times going down the left side pin. We'll do the same thing on the right and continue down the right side 3 times with 2 neon orange bands each time. We want to switch back to our dark orange bands, and we're going to close off her legs, and we're going to go from the 3rd peg from the bottom in the center to the 4th peg on the left, and the 3rd peg from the bottom in the center to the 4th peg on the right. And we want to cap this center peg with a dark orange band wrapped 3 times around the peg. Now we need to go up to her face, and from the 3rd peg on the left, we're going to go over to the 3rd peg in the center with 1 single red band, and 1 single red band from the 3rd peg in the center to the 3rd peg on the right, a single red band from the 4th peg in the center to the 3rd peg on the right, and a single red band from the 4th peg in the center to the 3rd peg on the left. And now I believe we are ready for our attachments. We need to make her eyes. For the eyes, I'm going to take my pony beads that I have already marked with a black Sharpie. I'm going to take a double looped neon orange band, and I'm going to pick up one of my eyes on my hook, and I'm going to slide this eye onto my hook like this, and I'm going to do the same thing with the other eye, placing my eye on my hook, double looping a neon orange band, and sliding my eye onto the hook. And I'm going to place this aside because I'm going to attach that when I'm looping. So we can attach her feet and her arms, and I'm going to attach my first foot to the last peg down on the left, and my next foot I'm going to place on the last peg down on the right. For her arms, I'm going to place one arm on the 5th peg down from the top on the left, and the other arm is going to go on the 5th peg from the top on the right. We are going to attach her little ear puffs here, and we have our double looped slip knot. So what we're going to do, we're going to double it again, or we can actually do that on the pegs. And I'm just going to wrap it around, cross it, and stick it on. I'm going to do the same thing for the other side, taking both loops of my slip knot band, placing them around the top peg on the left. I'm going to cross it over and wrap it around that peg again. There we go. And that will attach our little ear puffs. If you notice, we have our cap band in the center, and what we want to do is take our cap band, and I'm going to put my finger through, and I want to loop Let's see if I can do this right. What I want to do is stretch this so that I can tuck my ear through the center of that loop. There we go. And that's going to attach one end of my bow. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, taking my cap band in the center and stretching it out so that I can slip my ear through that center cap band, and that will attach my second bow. There we go. I'm going to leave that like that. Before we add our holding bands, we've just attached our ear balls, and I realized that I forgot to do the bows for her hair. So we're going to do that now, and if you don't have a second loom, I'm just going to show you how you can do it here. So we're going to take our light pink bands, and we're going to use these last two pegs in the center and place two light pink bands, and we're going to cap that. We're going to take a light pink band and double it, wrap it around our hook 2 times, and we're going to place this as a cap band on the bottom peg here. And we can loop this, so we're going to reach inside our cap band, grabbing the bottom 2 pink bands and looping forward. And we're going to remove this from the loom. Now we can just leave this on our hook for now. We need to do the same thing again, placing 2 light pink bands on these last 2 pegs. And again, we'll cap this with a single light pink band that has been doubled. Wrap it around your hook 2 times and loop it over. And before we loop that, we're going to attach this part of our bow onto this end. And we're going to loop forward, reaching inside our cap band, grabbing the bottom 2 bands and looping forward. And now what we want to do is take a single light pink band and double it, and we're going to form a slip knot on this center peg here. So I'm going to reach my hook down through all of those pink bands, grab the end of my double looped light pink band and pull it up through the center. I just want to make sure I only have light pink bands. It is a little bit tricky when you're trying to work around other bands here, and I apologize that I forgot. Hopefully you have a second loom that you can use instead of trying to work around what you've got. In case you don't, I'm just trying to show you how this can be done even if you don't. So there, we've secured that, and we can remove this from the loom. And I'm going to tighten my slip knot. And this will give us one bow for her hair. And we're going to do the same thing again, and this time I will use another loom so it's easier. And I'm going to place 2 pink bands from the first to the second peg. Again, a light pink band, and I'm going to double it and wrap it 2 times around this peg. And I can loop this. And I'll remove this from the loom. And again, I'm going to place 2 pink bands from the first to the second peg, a single pink band, and double it. Wrap it 2 times around the peg as a cap band. And I guess I can loop this. And I want to place this part of my bow back on that top peg. and then I'm going to secure this with a slip knot made from a double loop light pink band. So I'll grab the ends, pull them up through, and form my slip knot. There we go. And we can remove this from the loom. And now we want to attach it to her hair. So we're going to place our hook through both loops of our slip knot band, and we're going to tuck her ear ball, I guess. I'm sure that's not what it's called, but we're going to tuck that through, and we want to cross this over, and we're going to tuck it back through again. So we're basically putting this on, doubling our loop, and I might even try that a third time to tighten it up. I'm not sure if I crossed it right the first time. So there we go, and I can adjust that after I get it off the loom. Make sure it's going the right way. And we're going to do the same for the other side. Again, taking our hook and placing it through both loops of our slip knot band, and we're going to place our ear through it. I'm going to twist it and tuck it through again. And one more time, I will twist it and tuck it through. And that will secure my bow. And as I said, we can adjust this again when it's off the loom. So I'll just leave that like that for now. And one more thing I wanted to do before we add our holding bands, I'm going to take a single red band and wrap it around the third peg from the top in the center, and I'm going to wrap it around 4 times. And if you have a hard time reaching those center pegs, what you can do is take a single red band and double it and wrap it around your hook 2 times, and then we can just slide it over the peg. There we go, and now we have 4 loops on both pegs. And we also need to grab our dark pink band for the tongue in the center. And now we can add our holding bands, and we'll start with our neon orange, and one is going to go around the first peg on the left and the first peg on the right, and down around the second peg in the center. We're going to place another neon orange band around the second peg on the left and the right, and the third peg in the center. We're going to place a single neon band just across the 4th pegs on the left and the right. Moving down to her sweater, we're going to place a single red band around the 6th pegs on the left, the right, and the center, a single red band around the 7th pegs, a single red band around the 8th pegs, a dark orange band around the 9th pegs, and a dark orange band around the 10th pegs. And I apologize, this first holding band, we need to double it. So we want to stretch it around the first peg on the left and the right, and then cross it back over itself. There we go. So we have it going around each side twice. And this one as well, that's going around the 4th pegs on the left and the right, we want to double that one as well. So now we're ready to loop. We're going to attach the eyes when we're looping. The tail we will attach after we have it off the loom. So we're going to start in the center, and we're going to reach in through our cap band and grab the top 2 orange bands, which we are going to loop over to the right. And reaching in again, the next 2 orange bands are going to go over to the left. Now we're going to loop up the left side, reaching inside our foot attachment, grabbing the bottom 2 orange bands and looping forward. And we're always going to pay attention that we're forming our raindrop shape, that we're staying inside the holding bands, and that we're grabbing both bands as we loop forward to the peg above. And we are going to loop all the way up to the center peg at the chin on the left side, or from the left side, I guess I should say, and reaching in at the arm attachment and over to the center. We can now loop up the right side, again reaching inside our foot attachment, grabbing the bottom 2 light orange bands and looping forward. And we'll continue up, again making sure that we're forming our raindrop shapes, that we're staying inside the holding bands, and that we're grabbing both bands as we loop forward to the peg above. And again we'll loop over to the center at the chin, grabbing both red bands at the arm attachment and looping over to the center. We can now loop up the middle, and we're going to reach in, grab the bottom 2 orange bands and loop forward, staying inside the holding bands and forming our raindrop shape as we loop to the peg above. Now, before we loop these, I'm going to reach inside this band, grab the top red band and loop it over to the right. I'm going to release some of this tension, and I'm going to reach in again and grab the next red band and loop it over to the left. I'm going to reach inside the cap band at the 4th peg and grab the top red band and loop over to the right, and reaching in again and grabbing the next red band and looping over to the left. Now we can loop up here, and we're going to reach inside all of these red bands and grabbing the top 2 orange bands. We are going to loop over to the right, and the next 2 orange bands are going to go over to the left, and the final 2 will go straight up the center. I'm going to continue up the left side, grabbing the bottom 2 bands, staying inside our holding bands, and making sure we're forming our raindrop shape. And when we get to where we've attached the ears, we want to transfer one of our eyes over to our hook, and I'm going to grab those 2 bands and release them, and very carefully I'm going to slide my eye down onto those bands before I loop them over the peg above. And now we can loop up the right side, so we're going to go back down to the 4th peg on the right and grabbing the bottom 2 orange and looping forward, and again forming our raindrop shape as we stay inside the holding bands and loop to the peg above. And again at the top peg we want to grab our other eye, and when we reach in and grab the bottom 2 light orange bands, we're going to carefully release them, and then we want to slide our eye down onto those bands before we loop over the top center peg. And now we're ready to finish looping up the center, and before we do, we need to grab our dark pink band and wrap it 4 times around our hook, and we're going to reach in and grab the bottom 2 red bands, and we want to slide all 4 loops down onto the red band, and we'll loop that forward, and then we can loop our final 2 links, reaching inside all of these bands, grabbing our bottom 2 orange and looping forward, and again the bottom 2 and looping forward. And now we just want to double check that we have looped everything. And as I said in many of my previous videos, you can usually tell if you've missed one by looking down the side of your loom. So I always check the top and down the side. And everything looks okay, so I'm going to take a single neon orange band and double it And I'm going to place my hook down through the center of the top peg, and I'm going to grab the end of my band and pull it up through, and I will form my slip knot. Give that a gentle tug. And now we're ready to remove this from the loom. So I want to just wiggle these bands free, and then I'll use my hook, and I'm going to just pry the bands away from the pegs. And they should come off fairly easily. The exception is where we've double looped the bands and where we have a lot of bands on one peg. It may not be quite as easy to remove, but we're just going to go slowly and carefully. The last thing we want to do at this point is break any bands. So we're just going to release these bands, and we're going to go all the way up. And again, we'll go all the way up, releasing the bands in the center. And carefully where the ear is attached, that is quite tight there. The same with the other side. And then we can remove her from the loom. Okay, so I want to tighten up my slip knot band, and we can adjust her eyes. I want to fiddle with her face here. Just going to stretch her head out. And we can fix her ears. And we'll stretch out her body. And I'm going to stretch her belly. Stretch that out, just grabbing the outside bands, and I'm just going to stretch that out. And I want her arms angled down at her sides, so I'm just going to place my hook down through the center peg and give that a little tug, and that's going to angle her arm down. I'll do the same thing on the other side, placing my hook down through the center of the teardrop and giving the bands a little tug. And again, that will angle her arm down. And I'm going to adjust her legs so that they're straight. And I can fix any bands that might be a little wonky. And the same thing on her hand. There we go. This one looks all right. Now we need to secure our slip knot band. And all we need to do is, I'm going to tighten it up a bit, and then I'm going to weave it through a couple of bands at the back of her head. So I'm going to place my hook through those bands, grab both loops, and pull them through to the back, just so that they're out of the way. And that's all we really need to do. And I want to fix her ears here. They're kind of down a bit further than I would have liked. So what I need to do is figure out how to get her ears to be up a little bit higher. So there's a couple of things that I could do, and one is I can take a dark orange band and I'm going to stretch it out here, hopefully without breaking it, and I'm going to double it, and I can try looping it over the bow and the ear on one side and going across and looping it over the bow and the ear on the other side, and that will hold it up a little bit higher where I want them. And that's one way. And then we can just adjust the bow. And that band is not really visible because it is at the back of the head. So, and we'll fix the bow on this side. But again, I want to adjust this eye. I want to puff out her cheeks a little bit. I maybe should have added a couple of extension bands there to make her face a little rounder, but we'll squish it down a bit. And we'll stick her ears out a bit. And I think she would like to wave at everybody, so I'm just going to bend her arm. And I'll pinch it at the elbow. And you can do that also by placing your hook down through the center of the teardrop and just tugging the bands. And I will probably end up adding more broken bands to her ears and her tail. I'm not quite happy with, they're not as puffy looking or pom-pom, I guess, looking as I would have hoped, but we'll stick with that for now. And now we need to attach the tail. So what we're going to do, I'm going to take the slip knot band of the tail, and we just need to go through a couple of bands at the back, and I'm going to pick the top of the dark orange bands, and I'm going to grab the ends of my slip knot band and pull them through, and then I want to tuck my tail through the loop of my slip knot band, and I'm not going to pull that too snug, I don't want it really loose, and I'll just leave it like that. And yeah, I probably should have added extensions for her cheeks. However, okay, there you go, Tracy. This is Red from Fraggle Rock. I hope you like it. Please comment below. Let me know what you think. Please post a picture. I would love to see your version if you follow this tutorial to make one of these. Stay tuned. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because I do have all of the main characters from Fraggle Rock coming up, including the Gorgs, Ma and Pa and Junior, and Sprocket the dog as well. So stick around for that. They will be coming up soon. They are already designed. I just have to do the tutorials for them. So Red is the first of my Fraggle series. So I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll come back again for the next one. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.